Hasbro toy. Alright, you have to get out, I'm sorry. It's part of actually getting into your redemption. At least 10% of your paycheck must go to Hasbro. Or lose the spell. Yeah, 10%, or 20. Anyways, if you have a seat, congratulations. That means you will definitely be able to get a Star Top on your departure. So you have to wait to the very end. Anyone who leaves early or tries to leave early isn't going to get one earlier, so just enjoy the talk. It's going to be a great talk here. And also, if you really need to go to the bathroom, if you really can't hold it, you can go to the door you came in on, and our hall monitor, Tony, will give you a bathroom pass. And if you don't have a bathroom pass, and you're caught by us, you go to the principal's office and not get back in. So make sure you get the bathroom pass if you need to use it. I also wanted to announce that the Galaxy Collecting Track Fund is expanded for this Celebration 6. If you go across the hall, there's like twice as much stuff over there. You have like a social area where you can go and meet. There's more panels over there. There's live podcasts. There's collecting displays, author signings, hatch giveaways. You heard that one. And it's just a really exciting new thing for this celebration. We also have the scavenger hunt, which, who's done the scavenger hunt? Anybody? I see a couple of hands. It's really cool. It's new, just for the collecting track. You get this card, and you run around. You get clues by looking up on the Facebook page or Twitter page. Just look up Celebration 6 collecting track. I don't know all the hashtags. Is it 6 spelled S-I-X or V-I or the number 6? So just look it up, you'll find it. And if you get every single one of the stamps, you get the exclusive medal that you walk in now received. A little bitter about that. How about that? So anyways, and also it's pretty exciting. This is the first time we ever had a brochure. So this is the $3 thing. Everything that's happening. You have all the star cards on the back. You have a history of all the giveaways the collecting track. I bought one myself. This is my personal copy. You can't have it. But if you want your own, it's right across the hall as well as the amazing displays for the Star Tots. So you can put all 20 in a nice little box. So anyways, as you've all purchased at least one toy from Hasbro, I'm proud to present Matthew and Ryan and talking about Hasbro.
Well, thanks for coming out, everybody, today to learn about modern Hasbro action figures. You all saw the program on the slide. It's entitled Collect All 2769. Of course, that's a play on the old vintage card backs. But since these slides were submitted, we're going to rename it Collect All 2977 because we now enter the realm of something that's difficult to talk about because it's an organic thing. It's moving on. They aren't making any more real vintage figures, but Hasbro is allegedly continuing to make modern figures, although we might not be seeing them. What does 2977 really mean? Well, it really means absolutely nothing. That is the number that I have calculated in a spreadsheet that goes about 20 pages. If you were to have bought every product that Hasbro put out since 1995, you would have 2,977 figures. That includes duplicates, pack-ins, exclusives, repacks, recards, everything else. So the likelihood that anyone in here has all 2977 is not out of the realm of possibility, but if you're sitting there thinking about getting into the hobby, do not be daunted by that number.
Is it ironic that that's 1,000 more than the year Star Wars came out?
I actually thought about that. The fact that we can't really get an exact count that everyone can agree on how many figures there are shouldn't be surprising. The vintage collection, of course, lasted much shorter in a length of time and consisted of far fewer figures, and I don't think the vintage people out there would disagree when I say that there's not an exact agreement on what constitutes a vintage figure, and therefore how many of them exactly are there. So when you're dealing with 10 times the number of figures, it gets a little confusing. Of course, the vintage line lasted for only 8 years. The modern line, again in quotes, is already nearly twice that long. Look at this flow chart, it sort of puts everything in perspective. When Hasbro reintroduced under the Kenner name the Power of the Force figures, we call them Power of the Force 2, but the card backs actually just said Power of the Force, which is a continuation, of course, of the final vintage figures, which came with the coins, and I guess that line started in '85. Well, 10 years later, when they relaunched Power of the Force on what we know as the orange cards, at that time, the oldest vintage figures were 17 years old. Well, right now, the oldest modern figure is 17 years old. And that has led in forums on eBay sales and that sort of thing to some confusion or duplicity of people selling 1995 figures as vintage. If you look at a timeline, that might be legitimate. If you look at the language of the hobby, of course, that's not quite accurate. But they are now. Some of the figures are quite old. If you look at these, the way the figures are broken down, the carded figures that you find on the shelves, Toys R Us, Target, wherever you do your shopping, there have been 916 basic figures, by my count, since 1995. That includes, those are unique figures up until the Saga line in 2002, at which point Hasbro started numbering the figures. After that point, it includes all the numbered figures, including the repacks. So again, if you just wanted one of every figure and you're an opener, we're below 916 now, unless you count Clone Wars figures, which came out obviously with the launch of the television show in 2008, and we have 160 numbered Clone Wars figures. Again, there's probably about half that number in actual figures if you're an opener. Then we have repack lines, which began in earnest in 2006. Theoretically, they're supposed to be greatest hits, common figures of popular characters that Hasbro always wants to make sure are on the shelves. Of course, just like in the basic figures, they aren't all unique. There are some repacks in the basic line. In the repack figures, they have snuck in some new figures or some significantly retooled or repainted figures. So that's another thing that you have to take into account. And something else that exploded roughly around the time of Revenge of the Sith are exclusive figures. Those are available to online retailers like Entertainment Earth, Brian's Toys, now is going to be getting this Casa New. Giveaway figures at Toys R Us or Walmart exclusive comic packs, these sorts of things. Figures that you actually had to search for that you weren't going to find everywhere you went out. They are quite often unique figures. Just as often they are repacks or repaints or commemorative figures such as Celebration, Talking Darth Vaders, or George Lucas X-Wing pilot figures. But that's a segment of the collecting that sometimes they're hard to get and it's really taken off, and as you can see, there's almost as many of those as there have been cards on the shelf. So, here's where it all began in 1995, what we call Power of the Force 2. Began modestly with only a few figures out by the end of the year. It began obviously on the red card that you see up there. This was the largest line that we had in the modern era, and if you can include vintage in that as well. We had 114 figures between 1995 and 2000. All of them more or less unique figures. Obviously, the line is the longest running line. It went on for 5 years in one form or another, although they changed the card design on a number of occasions. We had the green card in 1997. There was a hologram that was placed in commemoration of, depending upon your opinion, either the special editions or the 20th anniversary of A New Hope. There were some holograms on the orange cards as well, primarily on the green cards. 98, we got the first pack-in premium, which we've had more or less ever since. We had slides, freeze frame action slides. There was a mail away that allowed you to get a macro binocular slide viewer or a slide album, which came with exclusive slides. 1996, the Power of the Force line was sort of shoved to the side, even though it was only just a year old, for the Shadows of the Empire line, which consisted of only 5 figures, but was part of a big multimedia push for the Shadows of the Empire project, which consisted of, in addition to the toys, a video game for the Nintendo 64, comic books, a novelization, and there was even a soundtrack for it. It was, in many ways, sort of like a Force Unleashed multimedia push. It's from Lucasfilm. So Kenner pumped out Hasbro pumped out a number of figures. It's important to note that Kenner was bought by Tonka, I believe, in 1987. Subsequently, Tonka was bought by Hasbro in 91 or 92. Hasbro continued to pump figures out under the Kenner label until episode 1. And subsequently, they resumed printing some figures in the vintage line that we see on stores now with the Kenner label. But up until episode 1, the card said Kenner. The expanded universe line came out at the end of the Power of the Force line, just before episode 1. It was the first subset to consist, if you consider Shadows of the Empire to be canon. These were the first expanded universe figures. They were relatively hard to get because there was quite a glut of Power of the Force stuff on the market at the time. A lot of retailers weren't ordering, and with the imminent arrival of episode 1, they were holding off for that new product. So these figures were available primarily at specialty stores. I know I found them at a GameStop, at the mall. I never saw them at a traditional retailer.
I actually found some of these at like $2 a piece at Target.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I didn't have to around.
I think I saw some of those cards with a little orange tag on it. Like $1.09 or something.
So, episode 1, 1999. 53 figures is the shortest of the primary line of figures. If you take any of the Power of the Force, Saga 2, 20th anniversary, the 30th anniversary collection, whatever line you want to take, episode 1 is the shortest, 53 figures. It may not seem that way because there were so many of them out there, but it seemed like they were out there for so long. This was only the second wave that focused on a specific movie. Of course, the original 20 Star Wars figures were all just based on the movie Star Wars. But every line after that mixed figures until episode 1, which only featured figures from that movie. In 2000, we got the Power of the Jedi line, which took some figures that had been intended for episode 1, but there was such a glut of product, Hasbro wanted to get that out of the market, so they rebranded, mixing the lines, mixing the original trilogy with the one existing prequel at the time. Output really slowed down up until episode 2 in 2001 was the smallest year ever for collecting since the very beginning in 95. There were only, no matter, if you bought everything Hasbro put out in 2001, you ended up with 36 figures, which, by comparing to now where we're getting 300 or some a year, that's really shocking. Shocking over the line. Power of the Jedi figures were unique in the line since 1995 when the cards were actually generic. There was go back, there was a Force file, which was a little booklet with a game in it, stats, and various little things to entertain kids and another thing to collect. On the back of the card was a window, which allowed you to see the description of the character on the back through that window, and allowed Hasbro to make just one card at a time. Although they did change the card back to reflect which figures were at the time available, but every wave had a common card. That changed a little bit at the end of the line when they actually did print the picture on the last few of the cards, and there was no more fact file. These led to sneak preview for episode 2. We did have a sneak preview episode 1 figure with an exclusive mail-away Mace Windu. And there was a box battle droid with the vehicle. But Hasbro actually put out 4 figures at the beginning of 2002 to hype the upcoming movie. Power of the Jedi is unique. It was the first line to contain expanded universe figures in the main line. I mean, we obviously had as we discussed, the expanded universe subline in '98. But by Power of the Jedi, they started mixing in some figures. We had training Darth Maul, training Obi-Wan Kenobi, that sort of thing. Saga in 2002 was basically the episode 2 Attack of the Clones line. Attack of the Clones, therefore, is the only prequel that didn't have a dedicated line. These figures went on these cards more or less. They tweaked the card in 2003. But this line more or less lasted for 3 years. It reached a rightful age of 129 figures. There were, although obviously there was a focus on Attack of the Clones, as that was the film that was currently in the theaters, very early in the line, actually before Attack of the Clones even was in the theaters, there were non-Attack of the Clones figures in Saga, including this Vader. I found this Vader on the way home from Celebration 2, so clearly before Attack of the Clones was out. At the end of 2003, in conjunction with the Cartoon Network Tartakovsky Clone Wars series and a number of comic titles from Dark Horse and some novels, there was at the time, big push on Clone Wars, although it obviously pales to the push that we've had since 2008. So therefore, some of the figures, the last few figures in the 2004 Saga line, were recarded on this card, although they were numbered as part of the Saga collection. This was the first. We've had over the years 3 different lines dedicated to Clone Wars. This was obviously the first, but it was simultaneously on the shelves with this line, which began at Target, which subsequently was available at other retailers, and ended as a Walmart exclusive when they made some DVD 3-packs. Nice subline, 14 figures that really didn't sell too well. A lot of them were found on clearance, and they were available right up until Revenge of the Sith. In late 2004, you probably all remember Lucas finally brought out the original trilogy on DVD in order to harmonize the release of that with product on the shelves. Hasbro brought out the original trilogy collection, which were a couple waves of new figures that would have been in the Saga line, put on new cards, as well as some repacked Power of the Force and Power of the Jedi original trilogy figures. Available only for a few months, basically the second half of 2004, which led into 2005 to the post-original trilogy collection, which is abbreviated POTC, and therefore difficult to search on eBay because you find a lot of Pirates of the Caribbean material. There were 16 figures, half of them were new, and half of those were from the original trilogy, and half of them were from episode 1. And then when there were some more repacks, the repacks are almost indistinguishable from their original trilogy collection counterparts, which also makes them difficult to search for. Episode 3 was the last, obviously, film in the theaters, and it was the last time we had a line dedicated to a single film. 2005 was also the year where we had the most individually carded action figures on shelves. It also began the somewhat infuriating trend on Hasbro of making unique card designs that bend easily and annoy card collectors to this day. Saga Collection 2 came out in 2006. Hasbro began now the habit of changing the card design and the line name roughly every year. We've stuck with the Vintage Collection now for about 3 years, but up until between episode 3 and now, we had a new line just about every year. They had a pack, these came included with a pack-in stand, and there was a parallel Ultimate Galactic Hunt set with a silver stand and foil packaging. 30th Anniversary Collection brought back the coin from the old Power of the Force figures. A lot of people thought that, well, toy lines introduce coins, that means that the line's about to end, that they're grasping for something. Obviously that wasn't the case here, although by 2007 you might have wondered what was left to be made. We were getting holographic Darth Vaders and whatnot. There were 2 sublines. They brought back the Ultimate Galactic Hunt with another foil card, and the Quarry subline, which were just shipped along with all the other figures. and you can find it anywhere you want it. Post 30th anniversary collection, 2008 was a strange year. Clone Wars was launched at the end of the year, and so a lot of product was being held to coincide with that. And you also had the next big multimedia Lucas project, which was The Force Unleashed, which, like many video games, was repeatedly delayed. For a long time, Hasbro tried to delay the product. We saw the Force Unleashed figures long before they were ever in the stores or the game was ever released. Ultimately, they needed some product to get on the shelves in early 2008. So out came the Force Unleashed figures, even though the game was still not out and would not be out for some time. There were a couple other repack figures from the previous year. They got rid of the coin, brought back the sand. So we had figures on the shelves for video games that was not going to be out for quite some time. 2008, like I said, was the Clone Wars, and corresponding to the Clone Wars was the Legacy Collection, which introduced the Build-A-Droid concept. Every figure came packed with a piece. If you bought every figure in the way, you end up building a protocol or an astromech droid or something along those lines. We're going to be returning, Hasbro tells us, to the Build-A-Droid, to the Legacy Collection and the Build-A-Droid next year. So look forward to that. Legacy Collection changed cards in 2009. This introduced the smaller, up until this point, ever since 1977, all the Hasbro figures were the same size, the card backs. They dropped down appreciably in 2009. Clone Wars did the same thing. And all your star cases became useless going forward until the vintage collection came out, of course. 2009, the year that this line debuted, was the biggest year for total number of action figures. If you bought everything Hasbro came out with in 2009, you bought 347 figures, which is not insignificant. Clone Wars launched on the same day as the Legacy Collection. Card backs were similar. Clone Wars had a clone helmet. Legacy Collection had a Stormtrooper helmet. Clone Wars line really technically hasn't ended since then, although the card backs have changed many times. That leaves us with 151 figures, which, if we count every Clone Wars figure since 2008 as part of the same line, is the largest line. It's still not been around quite as long as the Power of the Force 2 was. 2008 began the first sustained split in the market between two lines of action figures. Up until then, we had some small subsets, the Tartakovsky Clone Wars figures and that sort of thing. But if Hasbro was going to do a subset, they'd include them in the main line. Since 2008, we had Legacy Collection and now Vintage Collection on the shelves, along with Clone Wars figures, both of which are technically new. And to complicate the mix, you also had a repack line at the same time under different names. So we've actually had three different lines, three different SKUs for stores to carry, which obviously complicates the situation. There's the third Clone Wars card back, and that's what's currently in the shelves. You can see this year we're expected only to get 18. I believe that's still the number that Hasbro is sticking with. I put a question mark in case they said something in their panel yesterday that I haven't heard anything that they're going beyond 18 this year. Vintage Collection, subset in 2004, 6, and 7, became the main line in 2010. Still is today, although the last wave is apparently shipping. We learned yesterday that Hasbro will continue the Vintage Collection beyond 2012, primarily as exclusives, and that it may read when they need to reinvigorate the line. They may bring it back at some time in the future as a primary line. Repack lines have become somewhat notorious since 2006. Like I said, Power of the Force 2 lasted for 5 years and consisted mainly of unique figures. That and Episode 1 were fairly unique, and then we weren't getting really any repacks in the main line. the Power of the Force flashback photos line, very short-lived line, immediately before the release of episode 1. One of the figures was this flashback C-3PO. In 2003, it was re-released without any changes as Tatooine Ambush C-3PO. That was the first time we got a figure repacked that if you had been buying the carton figures, you now had 2 of. Hasbro liked the trick and quickly started regularly throwing in repacked figures in the line, along with new figures. 2004 was the first dedicated repack line that created the Hall of Fame collection, just 12 figures on saga cards. They went to the well twice in 2006 with repack lines. We have Greatest Battles, a name I've never quite understood for a line of action figures, and Heroes and Villains. They were all Revenge of the Sith figures in both sets. The film was still popular, the figures were selling well, and it was a way to keep a lot of Revenge of the Sith product on shelves. Saga Legends debuted in 2007 and stuck with us for several years. It was a repack wave with occasional repaints, slight resculpts. Went on for 144 figures, which is remarkable. That includes repacks within the repack line, which may blow your mind. But if you bought every Saga Legend figure, you've still got some duplicates in there. There were some fans' choice figures mixed in as well. So we got some, besides the main characters, we got some rather obscure figures in that line. Saga Legends changed cards over the years along with the main line to maintain consistency. And Movie Heroes was the latest incarnation of Saga Legends. It was debuted earlier this year along with episode 1 in 3D. This is a weird line. It began as repacks. There's only been 2 waves. And the first wave was repacks, the second wave included entirely new sculpts from episode 1 or significantly new sculpting. So it's sort of a half and half line. The way, in many ways, the way that most of the lines have been since 06. So, you can see that 92 and 2977 are the same in that they're both meaningless. You can't, if everybody sat down and counted the figures, if everyone in this room did it, that's the number of different counts we have. It's something you just can't put your hands on. So if you want to go out there and find out what is out there to collect, the best thing to do is find a checklist that's consistent with the way if you're a carded figure, or if you're an opener, or what have you, you're going to have a different list. There are a number of checklists out there and lists of figures that are available. Obviously, the major websites all have their counts. Rebel Scum, of course, maintains a photo archive. For a long time, they had a checklist that I don't know if it's been maintained. Galactic Hunter, they do a figure of the day. Adam Paulus does that, which is ongoing. Whenever he wraps that up, you'll have another count there. There are a number of books. There's the old Action Figure Archive, which Sansweet came out with in 1998, so that's obviously out of date. That's basically, it looks like being updated later this year with his Ultimate Action Figure collection. There are a series of Japanese magazine books that are available on HobbyLink Japan, which are basically the action figure archive. There's a lot of pictures, some English text, primarily Japanese text, but pictures are universal, so that's a good way to see everything that's out there. I don't think they've updated that, though, since about 2007. Like I said, I maintain a spreadsheet which lists everything and tries to break it down between repacks, new figures, vehicle figures, exclusives. It's a torturous labor of love that I try to update about twice a year. That's available on my website, which is up there. Anybody can download that and do whatever they want with it. So now you know what's out there, or at least how to find out what's out there. And now, Lord Helmet, my counterpart Ryan, is going to tell you how to get it.
Or something like that. So how to find the toys that you're looking for without using the Jedi mind trick I know this last year has been a pain in the butt for most of us, right? Trying to find those stupid darn figures, and you're seeing, I know I've had a Target I went to for about a month and a half on my way home from work, and I had the same 4 bomb Vindens sitting on the peg for a month and a half. And of course I went out of town, and they got new figures in, naturally. But honestly, I'm gonna go through a lot of things here, but I will say what I have come to now, online is a huge resource. You know, if the stores around us aren't going to order the figures that we want, get them online. I'm ordering cases online this year and stuff, and I'm getting the figures I want. And if you look at the case ratios, you're going to find that you can order, I think it's like the 3rd or 4th wave, I don't remember exactly which wave, but it had like enough figures from one of the older waves, and it made it totally worthwhile. Spent 130 bucks for 12 figures, and I got all 6 new figures, and then like 5 new figures I didn't have in the previous wave, and then some duplicate figures that I wanted to get as well. Because unlike Matt here, true to form, I play with my toys. So I do open them all, and I find it far more fun. But honestly, store runs are not dead, and I'm going to talk about some cool stores to hit sometimes. But online, I think is going to be the way to go. Obviously, our last vintage wave now is going to be online exclusive only. Sucks that you know, you can only order it online, but at the same time, it's awesome because it's 12 new figures, 12 to a case. Very easy to get. All you have to do is order them. I also recommend collectors groups. If you don't have a collectors group in your area, start one. Find one in the area. I know I belong to Sarlacc up in Seattle. We're always bringing figures to our group meetings and swapping, trading, selling, everything. It's much better than going to the local scalper on eBay or anything like that. And obviously conventions are a great place, not just down on the sales floor, but meeting new people here. Right? You can go over here to the collector social, meet new people, find people to swap with, you know, get to know people over email and send stuff back and forth. It works really well. There's always the major retailers who like to hit with store runs. We all know these. Toys R Us, Target, Walmart, Kmart. I'm going to plug this one, not because I work there, not because I like it, but because I found a ton of new figures this year there. I was down in Oregon earlier this year and found the entire Target wave sitting on the Kmart pegs. And I went back the next day, and the figure I had bought was still there. I've been finding new figures at Kmart lately, and I've noticed a lot of the websites are reporting that they're seeing stuff at Kmart. So maybe if you haven't been hitting Kmart, go check it out. I don't give away a secret there, but I found some cool stuff there definitely this year. I like to go to local retailers in my area. We have a place called Fred Meyer. For the last couple of years, like the Attack the Clones wave that nobody else could find, our Fred Meyers were loaded with them. I had no problem finding those. The Return of the Jedi wave with Wicket and the Morian, I found those very early on in my Fred Meyer, the entire wave. I've heard a lot of people, Meyer's not in my area, but I've heard people finding stuff there. Walgreens, the current Movie Heroes wave with the light up saber Darth Vader, is supposed to be hitting there. I haven't found them yet, but good place to check. Buyart is another place to know about. Any other local stores that you know about, don't forget those little spots.
I know in our area, the supermarkets, especially last year, we're getting figures in when your traditional places just weren't getting anything. Now they're really costly.
Yeah, another place I found is Kohl's. And back when the Concept IG-88 came out, you couldn't find those everywhere. I found the entire way in a Kohl's store. And yes, they're marked high, and they usually have sales though, so they usually got a regular price anyway. So don't forget all those little stores. There's also the discount retailers, which we're now hearing from Hasbro. This might be the place to find those waves you couldn't find this year. So apparently they got tons of stock in them, but our regular retailers aren't ordering them. TJ Maxx, TJ Maxx and Ross, I found a lot of stuff there, and it's always cheap, so it's awesome. You find stuff you want, and it's cheaper than what you thought. Big Lots, I don't hit them as much, but I've heard of people finding stuff there, as well as Marshalls. Don't skip these places. You never know. Sometimes you're going to find it, go in there, and you'll find old Galactic Heroes or something you don't want. But sometimes you're going to find new figures. Sometimes you're going to find some really cool tumblers or shot glasses for cheap like that. So also don't forget to check stores while you're on vacation. I've had some awesome luck. Yeah, my girlfriend lives down in Oregon, so I have to go down and visit her. I found awesome stuff down there. Last year we were down in Anaheim to go down to Disney. I went to a Kmart there, yes, Kmart again, and lo and behold, there was Walrus Man on the pegs, which was a heck of a figure to find. And I just walked in around Kmart and found it. Theme park gift shops, sometimes they're more expensive, but it can be better than paying a premium price on eBay and shipping. And exhibit gift shops, I remember when the last Star Wars exhibit came through Seattle, like the newest figures were on the pegs there. They were expensive, but they were there.
I've found that you should go toy hunting on vacation at your own risk. Your significant other may not quite understand why you need to go to Walmart if you've got your toothbrush on this trip again. Look, I've never had an excuse to go to Toys R Us. I know they're talking about museum exhibits back in the 90s and the heyday where everything was going crazy. The Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. was a really good place to find figures because they had a Star Wars exhibit and the Air and Space Museum, and they had all the figures in the summer letters.
Honestly, we got here Wednesday night, or Tuesday night, we went to go grocery shopping and we were at Target. I was like, yeah, I've got to go look at the action figures, of course. There was nothing new. But online resources, there's always the online stores which I discussed. There's local forums, Rebel Scum, Yak Face, stuff like that. Use those to your advantage to help find out where the stuff. I stopped doing toy runs. I mostly watch when people are finding things through local forums and websites. People say, hey, I found this at Kmart. My Kmart. Listen to your podcasts. They're really helpful as to where things are hitting, when they're hitting. And of course, when all else fails, there's the online stores where you can order by the case like I talked about. I've ordered through both Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth and been very happy with them. I've never done it, but the Brian's Toys, one of every figure club I've heard is really good. I know I hear Arnie talking about it all the time on Star Wars Action News. And the online retailers, I know the MTT was on Target.com already, and I guess it's finally starting to get to stores now. Obviously, ToysRUs.com and Walmart.com. I remember I got the Java from Walmart.com before it hit stores as well there. So those are always things to hit. And like I said, online forums. Get to know your local collectors. Number one, you can save gas. You don't have to go driving 5 hours every day trying to find figures. Somebody says, hey, I found figures in this area or at this store. Generally, you know, your store is shipped from a distribution center. If they're hitting one Toys R Us in your area, they're probably hitting most of them within that week. So it's always a good idea to check that. Trade with your local collectors. Get to know people. Find out about the local toy shows and swap meets. Always. I went to a toy show earlier this year because I'm loose. I found some extra figures I wanted for $1 a piece, and you know, everywhere else they're $10. You get to buy from honest collectors, people that you know, not scalpers. Which is, you know, you'd rather do that. You don't want to feed the scalpers, right? And you help out your local fellow collector, which is good. Just a few places I put on here. Obviously, this is every place, but I've used rebelscum.com. We have a local one for Seattle, that a forum on there that we use. Yak Face has their own forum, Sand Troopers, Jedi Defender, and tons out there. Use those local forums. They really do help. Podcasts. I only listen to one. Obviously, I listen to Star Wars Action News. I don't really have time. I've tried to listen to the other ones, but I never have time. I always get really backed up. But, and even Star Wars Action News, I'll go through and listen to 4 at a time at times. But these are really good. You can learn about what's hitting. You can learn new people to keep in contact with. And there's just tons of information from this, and it's a little bit more of a personal level. There's always the collecting websites. They obviously post, hey, I mean, I've seen on Yak Face, Rebel Scum in the last couple of weeks, stuff was hitting Kmart. I'm like, yeah, I've done that last month. But it's always good to check out these places. I know I get them every day to see what's going on. Also, there's the comparing what's what. And you know, he talked about the Rebel Scum visual archive. These are all sites that I put up here that have good visual archives to check out. And the reason why I use this is, let's take this movie hero's Darth Vader here. You look at it, he's in kind of a new pose. In fact, when I was researching him, I had not bought him. And it's like, is this actually a new figure? It doesn't look like it. It looks like that Saga figure, is it? And yeah, it's the same figure. For me, I collect loose. I don't need individual carded variants, so I don't need 5 movie heroes Vader. And actually, those photos are from the Rebel Scum archive there as well. So. And or this one. This is one of my favorites. This Snow Trooper. This is from 2006, I think. Number 11. When this figure came out, I was like, should I buy this figure? Is this a new figure? This is an amalgamation of like parts from 3 different Snow Troopers in one figure. Ultimately, I decided it was enough of a new figure in that they put so many parts of Frankenstein together that it was enough of a new figure for me to buy. But by using photo archives and everything out there, I made that decision. Otherwise, I just wasn't sure. It's like, we got Snowtroopers, what is this? And of course, when all else fails, you can't find it, eBay, Amazon. I actually just got Kikiba and Dr. Vezian off of Amazon for $12.99 each. Wasn't too bad. I've got some good deals on eBay. And I know I covered this a little later, but eBay, don't buy them right now. Wait at least 6 months. Almost anything, you wait 6 months of the year, it sells for retail or under on eBay because everybody's going after the great new thing that's out. Collecting does not have to be solitary. You don't have to hide your figures in your basement. You don't have to hide them in a garage. Get to know your local collectors. It's honestly awesome. I've been with Sarlacc since 95, 96, somewhere in there. Gus was emailing me saying, hey, you should come join our group. And I came to it, and it was so much cooler than I ever thought it would be. I love this. I listed a bunch of area groups. I've had people talking to me over this week. They're like, there's no group in my area. It's like, start one, you know? See if you can get something started. Talk on the local forum, see if you can set something up in your area. I know we have actually 2 local groups in my area. Sometimes our meetings, which aren't really meetings, but they're more of parties almost. But sometimes we might have 6 people there. Sometimes we might have 30. It doesn't matter. We have a lot of fun. I've made a lot of friends with these groups. I enjoy doing things, not just collecting. We go see movies. We go do everything else. So collecting doesn't have to be solitary. You can really have fun with it. And to me, it's much more fun to collect when you know a bunch of people who do it. And there's always the Comic-Con celebrations and such to get to know people and find stuff. I know I hit San Diego and I have my local Emerald City Comic-Con, which is now the number 3 Comic-Con in the nation, which is awesome. You can always go to these and you can find new stuff. I found the deleted Seaway at Emerald City this year for like $12 a piece for me. And I couldn't find those anywhere in stores. There's probably a lot of you. Shop smart, right? Okay, not every figure you need to buy now. Don't feel, oh, I've got to get this figure, I've got to, what is it? Darth Malgus is going for 30, 40 bucks out there. How long is it going to be 30, 40 bucks? It might go up, I don't know. But a lot of times these figures drop in price. You'll find them 10 bucks on eBay or Amazon or whatever later on. Don't feel you have to spend a premium on a figure right now. Good things come to those who wait. Like I said, wait at least 6 months. And there's always people who decide, you know what, I can't find these new figures, I'm selling off my old collection. You can get great deals off of that. I just got a gunship with 2 of the pods on it, the big pods on it for 20 bucks this last week. So,
I guess to second that, and just beyond not paying a premium, like buying a Darth Malgus for $35 now, or a wedge last year for over $100. You would be smart not to buy at retail when they first come out. If you were willing to wait for clearances and sales, you would probably spend half as much than you would if you bought everything new on the shelves, let alone on an eBay or a con premium. I mean, some of the things you're going to lose out on, but by and large, you'd be much smarter. But if you have the instant gratification problem that I have, you don't have that sort of patience.
There are exceptions, and I put these 2 up here because these are 2 things I don't have right now. The Scramble and Yavin, I actually saw this in a Toys R Us one day. Looked at it, I was like, it's a battle pack. These are always around. I'll be able to find this later. Yeah. I do now have the cart with the Rebel guy on it that came with Toys R Us. I still need the flight guy and the droid that comes with it. And that comic pack. I actually have every comic pack except for the KOTOR, or the older comic, not KOTOR. One that's there. I actually saw a deal on it the other day that I may take up on my online site if I'm going to pick that one up. But if you're willing to sell it to me for a deal, come talk to me afterwards. Filling in your holes in the collection can be easy. Most old figures are fairly cheap. If you see a Pilot Force 2 figure going for more than $5, don't buy it. Okay? These things are usually $5 and under everywhere else. I have seen stores trying to sell these for $10, and you're like, really?
And they call them vintage.
Yeah. Pilot Force 2 Legacy, these things are always, they're under $5. Filling in holes, collecting it all, it's hard. There is a ton of figures, as you said, 2,977. I have all of those. Well, except for what you just saw there. But yeah, it's honestly, if you were looking at starting collecting, focus. And I'm going to talk focus here in a minute, because there's a lot of figures. So let's go to focus collecting. I'm going to go through this kind of quick. This is some stuff in my own collection I had to set up. Let's start with Luke. Okay, this is slide 1 of every Luke figure. Mostly a New Hope here. We even have Smiling Luke, that was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive over there on the side. Awesome figure. We start with He-Man Luke down there. We all love him. Mine even has the long lightsaber, if you remember that.
The infant.
Yeah, I do. I have the infant down there on the side. I had to put him in there. And there's one that looks like a vintage figure in there. If you remember that Hasbro did that 4-pack that was redoing the old molds. I put him in there with that. I basically, if it's different, I buy it. And so sometimes it's a slight paint job that makes it worthy enough for me to buy. Sometimes it's an accessory. But this is, there's a Bespin Luke in there because that's where he fit. But, you know. But then we go to mostly Empire figures here. The Back to Tank Luke, this is a figure I never thought we'd see. Here we got Luke in a diaper. We thought we could actually figure in a diaper. Only in Star Wars.
But he's got a new pad.
I even have the Dagobah Luke that had the interchangeable arms and head. I got 2 different ones, so they're 2 different figures like that, right? And then we go to the Jedi Lukes, including our awesome grimacing Luke back there in the back that if you follow Yak's Pub, you should use quite often there. And you go to, if you don't want to do Luke, okay, Luke's too much for you. Here's Lobot. You got Disco Lobot, and you got regular Lobot, and you're done. If that's too much for you, you can collect FX. Yeah, he's been re-released a couple times. It's pretty much the same thing. Focus collecting can go into vehicles. This is a friend of mine, Mike DeMain's collection. There's a lot more here than just Hasbro. He collects a Millennium Falcon. He has just about anything you'd want Millennium Falcon in it. As you can see, this is just one wall of his collection, by the way. If you want, this is something funny. I was going through my collection. Most of my stuff's in storage right now, and so I had this set up thing. It was amazing how many bikes and speeders there are in Star Wars. And I started, I was like, you know, I should show them. And this is even all of them. I got there, I was like, oh wait, I missed this one, I missed this one. And it's like, oh well. It was just a sampling of bikes. I'm sure you could fill a whole rack more of them. You can collect Seeing the Planet. Like this is the Tatooine Cantina. This is most of the figures. I may have missed 1 or 2 in here. Most of these slides are put them together like probably the next day after I put everything away. Oh shoot, I forgot that thing in. But this is most of the Cantina. Or Jabba's Palace, which has some awesome characters in there, especially recently. I think it's really cool stuff. This is part 1 of Jabba's Palace. There's also part 2. Yes, we actually got yarn. Aren't we excited about that? I think they're still out there on pegs, aren't they? You can do video game collecting, which is fun. Force Unleashed just had some awesome figures, and yeah, I still miss some figures in this one. But I love the game. I thought these are awesome figures. But you can, there's always the we're doing the Old Republic stuff now. Lots of video game stuff that's coming out. So you can focus in on that. You can do all video game, or you can do just one video game. I think this is an awesome line. The Tartakovsky line. When it first came out, I was like, well, these are different from my old figures. And then I bought a couple, and I'm like, these are awesome. I just like the artwork with them. They're so different from every other Star Wars figure you would buy. And yeah, I still missed about 2 figures in this picture, but I really do like these figures. I think they're awesome, and I think people should give them a better chance. Or if you don't want animated, you can do the Tartakovsky realistic line. Over the years, we've been getting these figures coming out in realistic form, which has been kind of cool. They fit in a little bit better with the rest of the work.
And it's sort of come full circle now because now we're getting realistic, modern Clone Wars figures with in them online.
Or you can do Astromechs. That's not every Astromech. I put a couple R2D2s in there, but yeah, I got done with this picture. Yeah, I found about 5 more Astromechs at least the next day. They made a lot of droids, and guess what? Build the droids coming back. So there's coming more. Oh joy. Or you can do Ewoks. I know I have a friend who's a big fan of Ewoks. Ewoks are coming back now. I enjoy Ewoks. I don't have a problem with them. We've got the new Toys R Us pack and Kmart's packs that are coming, so it's kind of awesome. Finally getting those Ewok stuff, just an Ewok village. Or you could do Rebel Pilots. Yes, there are listeners to Rebel Pilots. Most of these are expanded universe from Rogue Squadron. I think there's a couple extra bigs and wedge in there that are different variations they've done. But I just put one Luke in there, the smiling Luke. It's awesome. Oh, an Akbar. You can display your collection loose. This is the last time I had my collection on display. I do my character for mine in dioramas. So this is a picture of my collection around 2008 or so. By character, it's a lot more than that. But just to give you an idea, and obviously I collect more than just the figures. You can see the Hasbro 12-inch or sideshow. There's Galactic Heroes, micro collection, all that stuff in there. You can collect carded. I know Matt collects carded here. I do a carded set of original trilogy and the current vintage collection. Character, you can go by character. This is all the Almadallas I've done. I know people it's amazing these are finally coming out. We still need some more Avengers that says Almadallas, don't we? You can do dioramas. These are my friend Leonard's collection. He does some awesome dioramas in his home. I also do a ton of dioramas. Okay, I don't have mine here. This is also Amy's collection. She does Ewoks. She's got her Ewok Village in there, vintage, plus tons of other non-Hasbro stuff, but that's okay, right? This is my own diorama. This is my Emperor's Arrival that I've been working on. It's actually grown bigger than this now, but when it gets set up. But you can collect clones. This is still not every clone they've done for Clone Wars. There's a lot of clones. You can display by in order of appearance. I did the Leia's here in the order they kind of appeared within the movie. Sometimes it's kind of hard. Well, is this Leia before this one? But you can do it in order of release. I think that's next. Yeah, here's Jar Jar in order of release because you all have Jar Jar, don't you? No? Come on, he's part of the collection. You need your Jar Jars. Besides, you got Jar Jar Carbonite too. There's also all the other Hasbro items, and I still missed stuff in this picture. I missed actually the 12-inch, which is right. But there's been tons of other Hasbro stuff that we know. I want to say there's the new set that's kind of, what do they call it again?
I'm still in shock that you opened that carbonite Jar Jar.
I have the rest of the set in the car, but I had to open it. They keep coming out with all these new things, the tactics, the Unleashed, the Titaniums, the Transformers, the Epic Force. I love the Unleashed line. Like the big Unleashed, those were awesome. I really wish they'd bring those back. I love those. What's next? Hasbro can make anything, can't they? We got Yarna. We've got Jocasta New coming up. I think nothing is off the board, so don't worry. Like I said, Luke in a diaper. Who thought that would ever come on?
Except in time.
Well, people said that they have. We'll see. I don't know. My biggest thing is have fun. Collecting should not feel like it's work. Enjoy it. Get out there. Have fun. Get to know people. Thank you guys for coming today.
Just an important announcement. If you have a child in a stroller, they will not be able to receive a Star Talk, because if they did, then everyone else who has a seat would not be able to get one. So I apologize if there's any confusion on that. If you'd like to discuss that, I can talk a little bit more about that. That's kind of policy. So again, you have to have your phone in a seat to get a Star Talk. There's also going to be a Q&A.